Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sackhoff Show. I am your host, Katee Sackhoff. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the show. This is a really exciting episode. I cannot wait for you guys to see who it's gonna be. I mean, I guess you already know who it is because you saw the thumbnail or you saw the social media or whatever. You know that it's Simon Pegg. But I'm really excited. You know, I met Simon through my ex-boyfriend on a movie set. And I was a huge Simon Pegg fan because I found Shaun of the Dead when I was about 24. I had no previous experiences with like British humor at all. And I watched Shaun of the Dead and immediately became hooked on the humor, but also him as a creator. And I'm really happy that he agreed to come on the show. You know, I thought that this was sort of one of those like Hail Marys, like he might say yes. And he got back to me like seconds later and was like, of course I'll come on your podcast. And it was such a wonderful, fun conversation. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear about it. And we talk about so many different things. We talk about work. We talk about really funny stories on the set of Star Trek. And we talk about the new Mission Impossible movie. We talk about his family. It was just a really, really great conversation. And I couldn't be just more thankful that he came and was so open and honest, which is what this show is all about. So I will get out of your way because I cannot wait for you to get to know Simon Pegg a little bit better. Make sure to stick around for the Hindsight afterwards and enjoy the episode. It's so nice to see you.
You too. I can't remember the last time I saw you, ages ago.
I think it was probably 10 years ago. I think it was probably
Jesus.
10. It was a long time ago, quite possibly a little earlier than that, but it was like 10 years ago.
Oh my God. A lot's happened since then. You've become a mama, for sure.
Oh my God. So much has happened since then. But it's honestly one of the reasons why when I was coming up with my list of people I wanted to talk to, I wanted to talk to you because I was like, you know, I met Simon in like 2015 through my ex and loved him every time I saw him, but then never saw him again. And so it was such a weird thing.
That's our business though, you know, it's kind of, you make friends really quick and really intensely, and then you don't see them for ages. You know, you make these little families and then it's just constant abandonment.
It really is. It really is. So if you have abandonment issues and you don't want to deal with it, just become an actor. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's great. I remember having this like phobia of developing relationships with people. I would sort of be, in the beginning of my career, I would sort of be really cold. Not really cold, but I just really wouldn't want to hang out with people. I wouldn't want to, you know, create those relationships because the first time that it happened was so shocking to me. Like where I thought I was friends with someone. I was like 17 or 18 on set and then like wasn't friends with that. You know, it was like so heartbreaking that I don't think I ever opened up again until much later in my life.
I think the age of the group chat has helped because now when you come away from a job, you've invariably got a little group chat going somewhere on your phone, and it's easier to kind of drop in there every now and again and sort of check in with everyone.
Yeah.
It is a weird thing. And also I think there's like a sense that, I'll see them soon. I'll see them again. And then suddenly 10 years have gone by. You know, it's crazy.
I know, it's true. What is, because we have a group chat with the Battlestar people, and I actually, I removed myself from it because it was just all the boys. Like, I mean, I feel like I was just talking with a girlfriend last night. I think Trisha Helfer and one other of the women are the only ones left because all the women like pulled themselves off of it. We were like, I don't need to listen to boys talk about like their scrotums anymore.
When would you ever need to listen to anyone talk about that? Jeez.
I know. Well, although now that I have a son, I feel like I talk about scrotums all the time.
Yes, but with authority.
Yes.
A different kind of authority.
But like the right to actually like examine it and like right in there and actually fully understand the scrotum for the first time in my life. It's very odd.
being a parent is a whole different kind of thing in that regard. It's absolutely. I'm around at my sister's house at the moment. I've just come over to see my little niece, and she's like 2, and
Oh,
it's so fun because my daughter's like 15, and it's so weird because with children they change so frequently that you wind up missing them when they're still there. You know, you miss the baby version, and then you miss the toddler version, then you miss the kind of 6-7-year-old, and it's fun being back with a 2-year-old. Hysterical.
Is she, because our daughter's 2.5.
Oh, cool.
So is she like right at the beginning of 2 or toward the tail end of 2?
She's 2.5. She was born in January. So yeah, she's lots of fun, very interactive. And
Does she have meltdowns? Lovely. I mean, we don't need to talk about your sister's kids, but like, because my child, I do this because my daughter is also 2.5. She was born in December, and she is a complete see you next Tuesday at times.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God.
She had a little meltdown today because she had a nap in the afternoon, and then she didn't want to wake up again. But who does? Do you know what I mean? I get that. I understand why I would melt down in that situation.
You're like, I've had enough of the day.
And do. Yeah, exactly.
Quite often. Yeah. Your daughter Tilly is 15.
Yes. She's just finding out today if she got a role in Les Mis.
Really?
She just called me. Yeah. And
you can, if you need to step away and take that is a huge
fingers
call.
Crossing. Let me just call her and see.
You should. Please do. Please do.
I want you to get this live because it could be.
Because I remember this moment.
They're doing. Oh, damn it. She's calling someone else.
Oh, no.
Hopefully it's
might be good news.
I'm hoping so.
That's that thing. She might have called. Yeah. Well, would you be the second call or the first call?
I might be the first just because her love of acting, which she has, for better or for worse, inherited from me. And we watch a lot of movies together. That's kind of, we bond a lot on that kind of thing. So she might call me first.
Who gave you your love of film?
My mom.
Did she?
My mom was big into amateur dramatics when I was a kid. So she was very active at the local theatre group, and I would go down there to the theatre and hang out with her, and it was very much a sort of social club as well. These people they were doing it for the love of it. They weren't getting paid. It was I think community theatre, they call it in America.
Yeah.
And so I was around that a lot as a kid, and then I guess with movies, we had a movie theater right at the end of our street. And so I would go down there a lot. And then, of course, when I was 8 actually, because it came out in 1978, Star Wars arrived. And then that kind of just changed everything. So it was a combination of, I think, mom and my just general boyhood love of movies.
Was it always genre work, or are you a fan of just all films in general?
I think when I was a kid, because a lot of children's stuff is generally sort of genre-led. Although I remember going to see things like The Wilderness Family and, these sort of family dramas at the cinema. But I remember seeing like Sinbad and The Eye of the Tiger, and then of course, with as with a lot of children in the 70s, the landscape just completely altered when Star Wars arrived. But and as I got older and I became like a film student, then my sort of taste in movies expanded to everything.
Right. When you went to school, because this is something that's so interesting to me about your career, is that you simultaneously, it seems like, you started writing as soon as you started acting.
Yeah.
Was that because you had the knowledge of create your own content, that's how you work? Or was it sort of by accident? Or did you see the opportunities not there and you were like, I'm going to create my own stuff?
I think it was a bit of that. Yeah. I mean, I went to, rather than go to drama school, I went to Bristol University and studied theatre, film and television, which is, as much a theoretical course as it was a practical course. And so I kind of developed my sort of writing skills a little bit there. I'd always written stuff. I was writing plays and sketches when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And then at university, we were studying a lot about the kind of state of the art. And I had a feeling that I don't want to just graduate and then just wait to get employed. And I'd been interested in comedy growing up, and I'd sort of got into stand-up comedy at university on the kind of cabaret, the student cabaret circuit there.
Yeah.
And so I was already kind of writing my own material. Stand-up felt like a good way to leave uni and be employed, because I would be able to just go get gigs and stuff. And then and I guess for Jessica Hines and I, when we wrote Spaced, which was a sitcom we did back in the 90s, it was like, well, no one's talking to us about our lives. All the sitcoms about 20-somethings, Friends included, which we loved, but it was completely aspirational. They were all beautiful. They lived lives that we didn't sort of relate to in any way.
They had apartments in New York that were so expensive. I don't even know how they afforded it.
I know. And they didn't smoke weed, and they didn't play computer games. And it was like, what? Who are they? And so Jess and I said, well, let's write a sitcom about our lives. And that's how Spaced happened. And Edgar got involved, and that kind of formed the beginnings of what became my relationship with Edgar Wright. So it's all very serendipitous when I look back at it.
Because that's the interesting thing, is that like I look at sort of the trajectory of your career, and it really just seemingly from the outside looking in really started to just happen, because of the opportunities you also provided yourself with Jessica. And then, because I've seen Spaced and I watched it backwards, because I watched Shaun of the Dead. And then I was like, what is this type of, I've never seen anything like this. This is not American humor. I don't understand what's happening. And went backwards and watched Spaced and was like, this is brilliant. What is going on? I loved it.
Well, it's funny, I look back on it, and it is I was very fortunate to make the relationships I made. I'm a big believer in kind of, creating a creative community around you and hooking up with the right people, not for any sort of reason other than, it's not like, that sounds faintly sort of mercenary. I mean, Edgar and I became friends immediately, and we worked together a couple of times before Spaced. We just got on very well. We connected. And so when it came to Shaun of the Dead, we'd done a bit of a zombie scene in Spaced, and we finished that and thought, oh, let's make a zombie movie. Like, that's how naive we were. Like, we just thought, oh yeah, let's do this now.
Of course,
like
let's do it.
Like anyone could just do that. I mean, unfortunately, because it was the right time, and it wasn't easy to get made. There were meetings and different production companies circling it, but then eventually it just sort of happened. And that really was the key to America, because that's why I ended up in Mission Impossible, because J.J. Abrams saw Shaun. So it was, lucky little stepping stones.
My daughter still, if I need to make her laugh when she's having those meltdowns, I go, I still do it, and she loves it. So she does it too. So she's got this little 2-year-old walking around going, and she loves it. So
whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
I mean, I have become like a clown. It's really easy to make her laugh at this point. So you did this beautiful, and this is one of the also reasons I wanted to talk to you, because of social media, because you're new to social media. Time travels so quickly, but you were late to social media.
I was.
You sort of like 2020, like what possessed you to be like, I've made it this many years, I might as well dive into this hellhole of a swamp?
Well, I did have a Twitter. I started a Twitter in 2009, I think, or 10.
Okay.
And I liked it for a while. It was quite sort of, it wasn't the kind of battleground it is now.
Yes.
And after a while, I also I felt very like I felt too available, and I don't know, it stopped sitting well with me. And so I left it in like 2014 or something. Kept the account so I could just post, information and whatever. And then we were shooting Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning in Venice in 2020. And I was hanging out with Tom Clementieff a lot, and she had an Instagram, and she got so much free shit. I couldn't believe it. I was like, where did you get those shoes? And she said, someone sent them to me. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then she said, where did you get that coat? Someone sent it to me. And I thought, I'm going to get a fucking Instagram so I can get free stuff.
That was like the bar.
That was it. And the designer labels didn't really start coming through, but I do get free snowboarding equipment and dog food. But, I mean, it's just small victories.
It's true. I mean, I do love the free stuff. I haven't reached the like mecca of like free clothing. Not really. But I am at the point where I'm like, hey, you want some THC drinks? Sure, we'll send it on your way. Like, I'll try it. But you did this beautiful sort of like birthday tribute to Edgar a while ago. And, and how it was so wonderful because you guys have been friends for so long. And it was all about how when you first met him, he sort of like came up to you and just like started like, I think you said like sucking on the tit or something. I don't even know.
I said he was getting on my tits, which is a British expression for getting on someone's nerves. He wasn't quite sucking on them just at that point.
This is like the translation of Americans. That I'm gonna do an interview someday, and I'm gonna be like, oh, they were really sucking on my tits.
Oh my God, that would be I mean, it's not entirely wrong with Edgar, but no, he was just really annoying when I first met him because he was just a kid. He was like 20, 24 or something, and he was really, really talkative, and I had no idea who he was or what he did.
Yeah.
And he'd seen me on the TV and kind of came up to, we're from the same part of the world, which is, that we went back to shoot Hot Fuzz. And, but then he was kind of in our circle, and I started to get an idea that he was a director, and wound up working with him in 97. And it wasn't until then that when I was working on a sketch show for like Channel 5, like 6 days a week. And then on the Sundays, I'd go and shoot this weird little show called Asylum that Jess was in, and a bunch of comics. And it was all about, probably wouldn't get made today because it would probably be considered insensitive, but it was about a sort of psychiatric facility full of comedians.
I mean, maybe it would get made today.
I mean, it would keep the mental
only if
health
you're taking
discussion.
the piss out of comedians, because everyone seems to think that's acceptable these days.
We had a fairly kind of, not an entirely responsible attitude towards mental health. Yeah. But it was such a pain to shoot because Edgar would get so much coverage, and I was so tired from this other show, and I was doing this kind of as a favor. And then when I saw the show and I realized that he'd had this whole show in his head, and the way it moved, it was so cinematic, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is clever, he's super talented. And then when we came to make space, Jess and I were like, we have to get Edgar. He's the only guy that could possibly interpret what we've written in a visual sense. And that's how it happened. But I do, when I look back on that, it's the same with Nick Frost as well, or a lot of my friends. When I think of the happenstance which led to us meeting, it kind of chills me to the bone because it could so easily not have happened.
Yeah.
And that kind of freaks me out,
I have similar moments in the industry because our industry brings together so many different people of so many different backgrounds that come together, and you're sort of forced to work with each other, where it seems unlike any other real industry, the arts in general, I think, where, some of my closest friends are my mother's age, and like one of my best friends grew up on a farm in Canada and is like, 8 years older than me. I would have never met this person, It's all of these weird things that you're right. It's just like when you think about that sliding doors effect.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I moved to London from Bristol in like 93, and my girlfriend at the time got a job in a Mexican restaurant nearby because I wasn't earning much as a stand-up, And she came home one night and said, oh, there's a guy at work. He's really funny and he kind of wants to be a stand-up comic. Can you give him some advice? And that's how I met Nick. And
really?
It's crazy to think if we hadn't have chosen that particular apartment in that particular part of London, then nothing that's happened to me in the last 25 years would have happened. It's madness.
No, it really is. You just collaborated with Nick again, like in 2020, right? On, I think, another show. Is that something that, are you guys constantly creating new stuff together? Or is it just sort of one of those things where it's been a number of years and you're like, we should do that again?
Well, we started a production company together called Stolen Picture, and we had big ideas about, sort of creating our own content, having a little bit more authorship over what we've done. Nick had a show called Truth Seekers, which he developed with a friend of ours, and that was one of the things we kind of sort of got going with Stolen Picture. As it turned out, running a production company is boring.
And it's freaking hard. Like the finance aspect is
man. It's so hard. And
it's so hard. You have to suck so many tits.
Oh my God, there's so much tit sucking. It's ridiculous. And we just ended up like going, you know what? Sony you can have it. And I think Nick and I were both that year, that was a tough shoot for various reasons. And we weren't really, I wasn't in it that much. I had some scenes with Nick, but I think Nick and I have sort of come to the conclusion that we are actually, I mean, I think we might be doing something together, a little animation thing. But I think when it comes to actually like movies and stuff, I think we're going to save it, and we're going to do it when we can do it, the three of us, me, Edgar, and Nick. And you know, we're constantly talking about doing that. And really it's a question of just finding the time in our schedules to be able to coalesce and make a new film. You know, I don't think it's not a question of if it's going to happen, it's just when. So I think we're going to
make so many people happy.
Well, I hope so. And I mean, I see Nick, I talk to Nick every day, you know, he's my best friend, and it's not like we have to work together to see each other. Although that is always a nice bonus about working together, as we do see each other all the time. But I think rather than just do it for the sake of it, we'll save it for something special.
I love that. I want to talk about, the Mission Impossible, because I saw this thing the other day that, because you've been in the series now for
18 years.
I was going to say it's got to be 15 years, 18 years.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
I know. It's bananas.
When they brought up the character of Benji to you, were you under the impression that it could be multiple movies, or was it literally just like the third movie and you're like, well, I'll just take it for what it is? Or did you know going in that this character was going to be around this long?
No, I mean, I just thought I thought it was a bit of stunt casting. You know, JJ kind of called me out of the blue, and I didn't know him at the time, and sort of said, hey, do you want to come and do this? And I was slightly taken aback, you know, and I said, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And I did it, and thinking it was just a kind of one-off, you know, he's just a sort of little techie character. And then, you know, a couple of years later, he called me again and said, hey, how do you feel about Benji being an agent? And I was like, sure. And that was Ghost Protocol. And, you know, you never know with these films obviously exist film to film, you know, you don't know if there's going to be any more. It used to be, I remember, I think when I signed up for Star Trek, I signed up for 3. Whereas with Mission, it was more. Well, actually, maybe I did sign up for 3 for Mission. But anyway, I had no idea that would actually happen. And then, you know, here we are, and I'm 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 films now. I've just finished 8. Yeah. And yeah, I've been playing that part for nearly 20 years, and it blows my mind to think that it became that. You know, it's strange. I mean, I love it. It's great. Yeah. These last 2 have been, I mean, at times arduous, just because part 1 was right in the middle of COVID.
Well, didn't Tom Cruise buy a cruise ship to put everyone on?
We had I know he didn't buy it, but that you can see how that story would have just snowballed into. Tom Cruise bought a cruise ship.
He bought a cruise ship, put everybody on it.
Yeah. It was called the cruise ship.
You can still go on it to the Bahamas if you want to.
Yeah, it's got his face on it and everything. No, we were in Norway, and we needed a safe place to be, basically, a very self-contained sort of living quarters. And so Paramount hired a cruise ship, and they put, you know, they would have had to put us all up in hotels. So I guess they just did the math, and it turned out it was really fun because we were all in little berths, and we'd come out, we'd all eat together. And it was actually, I look back on that period of time shooting during COVID was actually really fun, just because it was so, the hatches were so battened down in every way. At times it was annoying. We were having to do our own makeup at some point. You know, we'd all go to set with our own little bags, and we'd have to do ourselves. And
that was the worst part.
Oh
They were
my
like,
God.
Katee, you're shiny. I was like, not my job. Like pulling puffs out of my bra and like trying to touch myself up. I'm like, am I good? Your hair, you have a thing. I don't know. It was
reminds me.
awful.
Do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but the Batman film that came out in 1989, there was a storyline in it about the Joker had poisoned all the cosmetic products, and there was these shots of all the newscasters looking all shit on TV. It was that was what it was like. I was dreading watching Dead Reckoning, thinking, oh God, I'm going to look terrible.
Yeah, it's not. I was in theater for like a second and had to learn sort of how to do stage makeup. I have never learned how to do my makeup well enough that like I can be a substitute for hair and makeup.
And also like stage makeup. You walk on set with like pan sticks, like 3 inches thick, big black lines under your eyes. Like, is this right? Is this what I'm supposed to look like?
You look great from the back row. You look great.
Yeah.
That would have been literally what I looked like. They were like, Katee can't handle this. We need to bring someone in. We need to.
It was crazy. I mean, we got through it, but it was long. And the best thing about it was shooting in Venice when there was nobody there because it was just empty.
What was that like?
It was wonderful. Pom and I made this little short film because she was doing something for the Avengers, and they had to do they were doing some fantasy football league, and she had to make a diss track about Chris Hemsworth. And we had 10 days off because one of the crew got sick and we had to shut down for 10 days. So Pom and I went out and made this little film called Au revoir, Chris Hemsworth. And we had and Venice is a film set anyway. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's just incredible. It's on YouTube, and it's one of my proudest moments. And we kind of made the best diss film of all the other films were like people looking into camera going, hey, you Robert Downey Jr., you punk. And then Pom and I made this French New Wave movie all in French. It was great fun. It was so good.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. I've never been to Venice, and I can't imagine. It must be like Disneyland during the Super Bowl when there's like nobody there.
I hadn't been either. I mean, I was 50 and I'd never been there. And I arrived in this, pretty much deserted, incredibly historic, beautiful place. And within an hour, I was out on the Grand Canal learning to drive a speedboat because I had to do it for the movie. So I was really literally thrown in at the deep end. But I think normally when you go there, all the streets are really narrow. When you're off the water and you're into the kind of town, everything, it's so narrow. I can't imagine how claustrophobic it must be when it's bustling with people. So we were pretty lucky.
Do you find yourself wanting to do your own, like more of your own stunts because of Tom? Like, or do you have like a healthy, like, yeah, that's what he does?
Well, I get why he does it. There's a reason why he does it. And it's because when you swap out to a stunt performer, then it becomes entirely about the stunt. All the characterization disappears because, the stunt performer is not an actor. The stunt performer is an incredibly adept physical performer. And, the thing that Tom really understands, that when you can see that it's him doing it, it delivers a whole other sort of dimension of kind of jeopardy, because the audience isn't only thinking, oh gosh, Ethan Hunt's hanging off a train. They're thinking, oh, Tom Cruise is hanging off a train. Yeah. And it also enables him to invest those moments with genuine sort of characters. So, any time when I can, I don't get called upon to do too much because, Benji's the guy that's generally kind of, sitting behind his computer asking why Tom is doing that. Mm-hmm. But certainly for 8, I've had to do a lot more stuff, and it's really fun. And as long as you've got like we have an amazing stunt crew. It's not like,
I'm sure.
We don't have, all the stunt designers and the coordinators and the people that interact with you during the stunts are fantastic. They're incredibly caring. They're always wanting to pad you up. And I'm terrible because I'm like, no, I don't need any pads. I'll be fine. And then I'm just like, get me some pads.
I do it the first time without pads. And then I think to myself, I'm too old for this shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I start asking for everything. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the knees. I'll take the elbows. I'll take the back. I'll take the hips. I'm like, do you have ankle pads? I'll take those too, because that feels like I'm like really vulnerable in the ankle area. I'll take whatever you want to give me.
I'm the same.
But they won't let you on Star Wars. You're not really allowed. They really don't want actors doing stunts, and you have to
No.
fight for every single like iota of a stunt moment, because we spend so much time, like you said, trying to teach this stunt performer who's phenomenally talented to walk like you and move like you, which is so weird.
Are you like, I mean, it's an interesting one. I always think about that with you and with Pedro and everybody in The Mandalorian, is because you guys, when you've got your Mandalorian masks on, obviously it's quite an easy thing to be able to step back and allow someone to kind of come in to do it for you. But I suppose like bo-katan has a helmet off quite a lot, so there are times when you can see that it's you.
Yeah.
But are they like really just hard on you about that? They just don't break anything.
Like literally like the biggest in season 2, I was running with my helmet on and I tripped over a stormtrooper and flew. I mean, like it felt like I was on the football field and flew like 10. It was so far and I landed so hard and you could hear this like hush, like everything got really quiet. And I stood up and I was like, I'm good. The pads actually worked. Like the armor worked. That was awesome. And they were like, oh shit, she's gonna be the death of us.
Aren't you delighted though that you're at a point in your career when you can say the sentence, I tripped over a stormtrooper?
I know. And the sad thing is you go back and you check to see if they're a real person, because a lot of times they'll throw dummies on the ground. But sometimes you'll trip on someone and you'll hear it go,
yeah.
You're like, oh, sorry, Steve.
That's the worst thing. You know, the worst thing is in that I've found in stunt performing for mission is hitting and getting hit. And I've felt that hitting is worse than getting hit. Like I if you punch someone, you're left with this terrible sense of guilt and unprofessional. If you get hit, you're a bit of a hero because you can stand and go, no, I'm fine. I got punched right in the face in Mission, like elbowed right in the face in Mission Impossible, completely accidentally during a rehearsal. And the person I was messing around with after that was just constantly, please duck, please. And I was like, I'm fine. But the awful sense of like, oh God, I hit someone is worse than the pain of being hit, you know?
It really is. I did a job in Canada that we had so little time for the stunts. And I remember kneeing a stuntman in the head.
Oh God.
And the guilt, like till this day, I am like, oh my God, like that poor guy, like I heard it.
Yeah.
And immediately stopped, which I probably shouldn't have done. Like that was just me. I should have kept going so the poor guy didn't have to do it again.
If you'd have been Tom Cruise, you just would have kept on. Like when he broke his ankle, that was one of the most incredible things that I always say to him that as he was running across towards the gap in that building, he was actor. He hit the wall, smashed his ankle, and then he immediately became a producer because he just pulled himself up and then limped out of shot on a completely shattered ankle because he knew that if we couldn't use that footage, it would cost us a lot of money.
And yeah, because he knew the magnitude in that moment too.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm not going to be able to do that again.
Yeah. It was extraordinary. And I've never actually watched the footage itself because it just it makes me nauseous.
And nobody's ankle pads.
Nobody's toes should ever touch their shins. That really isn't something that should ever happen.
That is just awful to me. I've never broken a bone.
Haven't you?
Knock on wood. I've never broken a bone.
You'll be okay if you...
Really? Does it hurt? It burns, right?
You don't notice it when it happens because there's like a sort of, that some bodily system blocks the immediacy of it out. I remember my daughter's best friend, Harriet, was playing in our back garden once, and there was a thump, and she came up to me, and her arm was bent almost at a right angle in the middle here. I'm indicating to the middle of my forearm. And she said, Simon, my arm's a funny shape. And I was like, oh God. And she like completely snapped her arm. And
God.
It was horrific, but it didn't dawn on her until like half an hour later when the pain kicked in that exactly what had happened.
Yeah, because your body is like, I will not let this person feel this because it will. Yeah. It's awful.
Because I think you do. I've broken my fingers, my wrist. I've broken a few. I'm a snowboarder, so I've incurred a few injuries doing that. But my little finger is bent because I didn't do my physio after I broke it. So if you do break a bone, do your physio.
Well, who needs a little finger anyway, though? What does it do?
It's kind of characterful. It's a bit sort of, it's a bit gnarled.
When did you start snowboarding?
I think the first time I ever went was in 1996, and I was terrible at it, and I just went with some friends, and we ended up just drinking a lot of schnapps and not really doing much snowboarding. And then I went to Whistler about 10 years later and thought, I remember doing it. I could pick this up. And it was hell. I couldn't remember a damn thing, and I couldn't get down the mountain. And then when I was shooting Ghost Protocol in Vancouver, because it haunted my dreams ever since. It'd been something I'd always been really drawn to. I used to go up to Grouse Mountain in Vancouver every weekend, and I just started from scratch, and I taught myself to board. And over that shoot, sort of became fairly proficient. And ever since then, I started late. I was 40. I've just got Tilly into it, and she's already almost better than me, and she's only been doing it for 7 months. But I just love it. It's my happy place. It's such a kind of meditative and exhilarating thing to do.
I started snowboarding when I was, 12. I think 12, like 92.
Great age to start. Yeah.
It was. And I remember my brother, who was very good at it, trying to teach me to keep my hands from flailing around. So he pulled a tree. It was so weird. Only my brother would do this, but he pulled like this tree out of the ground and made me hold on to it in front of my body and said, every time you drop it, I'm going to hit you with a snowball. He proceeded to just peg me the entire way down the mountain. And I was like, this is awful. This is so bad. But
that's like boot camp.
Me. It felt like boot camp, but it really taught me to try to keep my center of gravity in one spot. And then ultimately, once I found that stillness, I realized that's when you can actually start to use your body to benefit you. But you kind of, for me, I had to settle because I was all over the place. This isn't going to help you.
It's really hard to learn. It's easier to master. Like skiing's quite easy to learn apparently, but that first learning curve. Do you get to go away much?
So I haven't been since, it's been like 10 years, because the last time I went, not the last time, but the time before, I got such a bad concussion. I went by myself. I was up on the mountain, and I was supposed to meet my father for a basketball game. So I was rushing down the mountain, and I was doing the pipe. And I remember this little kid cut in, and I hit my head so hard, and I did not have a helmet on.
Katee.
I know.
What kind of example is that to set to our youthful listeners?
Awful, you guys. But I was also I grew up in a time when helmets, they were like, why would you wear a helmet on a ski mountain? That seems stupid.
I know.
So I, obviously didn't have one on. And the concussion was so bad that it knocked me out for a second. And then I had to go up the chairlift to come down another side to get to the car, because I was like, I need to leave. And I had, on ice where your board skips when you come to a stop. It was just enough where I slowed myself down because I was so dizzy. And it was just enough where it made me start throwing up. And I was like, this is a really bad concussion. And I remember getting to the car, talking to my mother to keep me awake driving down the mountain. And the last thing I said to her was a blue H. That's it. And I was like, a blue H. So for those that don't realize, a blue H in the United States is a hospital with an arrow. It's just a blue H, and it tells you where to go. That's the last thing I said to my mother. And then I don't remember anything after that. My mom, based on how long we were talking, figured out where I was. And the next time I snowboarded after that, I put a helmet on. And it was just enough to scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? If you get your confidence rattled, you have to you do have to just get straight back to it. And because I remember I knocked myself out once through my spine. I was up in, where was I? I was on Cyprus in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I came off a jump, and my board slipped from out from underneath me, and I whacked down on my ass.
Oh my
God.
The
shockwave went right up my spine into my head, and I kind of knocked myself out through my backside. was like, and then
It's a massive kick in the ass.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to do a shit. That was the immediate feeling, was like, oh, I'm going to do that. I can't do that right now. Not in my board pants. They're expensive.
But you'll get free ones, so it's okay.
That's true. But not then. That was, I could have, But I think, when you have an injury like that, you have to just get back to it. Otherwise, your confidence gets so rattled that
Yep.
But I'd hate to not be able to. Fortunately, I live 90 minutes from Geneva. On the plane, it's really easy to get. I can be in Switzerland. If I leave my house at 5 a.m., I live in Hertfordshire and north of London. If I leave my house about 5 a.m. in the morning, I can be on the mountain in the Port de Soleil by 1 p.m.
Wow.
It's really, really convenient for me, so I try and get away every year a couple of times.
Well, you did say you're moving to Switzerland in your video yesterday.
I have a fantasy about. I would never leave my wife to go snowboarding, but I would, but not for that long.
Not for like ever.
But I was thinking, when Tills goes to uni, I could go out there for like a bit of a season and just spend a bit of time there. Mo wouldn't mind. She'd be glad to get me out of the house.
Well, if you're married for that long, what's 3 months?
Exactly. I mean, I go away and do a film for longer, so it's not like, but it's
like
whether
a
or not
mental health break.
Exactly, for her more than anything.
My family were going to Germany in November, like the end of November, beginning of December next year, or this year. And my husband has never been. And I was like, let's go to Switzerland. Like that, what a great time to go. And so I'm putting together this plan because he's never been. And I have only been for brief amounts of time. I did a charity motorcycle ride through the Swiss Alps. It was absolutely stunning.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're into your bikes.
Yeah.
You and Trisha, right? You go off riding. That's so cool.
Well, now that I have little kids though, I've sold all my bikes. So I'm like, well, my goal because I got that a little bit when I became a dad, is that I think I just, and this comes from someone who obviously enjoys snowboarding and doing his own stunts, but there is a preciousness to life. Like I jumped out of a plane when I was like 27 or whatever. And the idea of doing it again came up, and I was like, well, I don't know if I want to put myself in a situation where a piece of silk has to save my life, because I've got a lot going on and I don't really want to put myself in that much jeopardy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think that's what it is. And it wasn't like a conscious decision. I think it just like naturally happened. When our daughter was born, I found myself spending less and less time doing it because the priorities had shifted a little bit,
Of course,
obviously. And it just became sort of this thing that I was like, I don't know if it's worth it anymore. Like the risk versus reward thing for me when I was thinking about the kids was sort of like, maybe I'll get to a point where like they can survive without me. And then I'll start again. I don't know.
I had a feeling like, I remember once Silly was, once I've been a dad for a few years, I remember having this sort of epiphany when I just thought, what the fuck was I doing before she was born? Do you know what I mean? It was like, why did I wait for 38 years before I did this? I feel like my whole biological kind of imperative has been fulfilled. I know what I'm here for. I know my place in the universe. I'm happier than I've ever been. Why did I wait for 38 years just fucking around, drinking and, doing shit that doesn't mean anything? I'm a terrible kind of converted parent. Like, to all my friends who don't have kids, I'm like, you should do it, really. It's why you're here.
I do the same thing though, but I'm like this, like, I feel really bad too, because it's like, I want to be like this really strong, like feminist and be like, yeah, just like follow your own, just you do you, girl. You don't need this. You don't need this. Yeah. And then, but there's also a part of me that's like, it's the best thing I ever did. I don't know why I waited. My purpose in life is so fulfilled now. I could literally never work again. And I matter. I am the most important person in the world to two people. And that's awesome.
It's so, and it's also, you are fulfilling, on a very evolutionary biological level, you're fulfilling the function of your existence. And that sounds so evangelical. Yeah. But it's true, and it's kind of, and the other thing that I found really was wonderful was that I suddenly stopped being the center of the universe. It
Yes.
was like suddenly, and that was like a relief for me. It was like, oh, I don't matter as much as this person, and that was a kind of nice feeling in a weird way. Although it is scary to have another heart beating in the world.
Yeah.
There is a vulnerability to having another heart that's beating in the world. That for me is I can't watch anything. Tilly had to kind of convince me to watch Prisoners the other day, Denis Villeneuve's film with Hugh Jackman, and because it's about kids being abducted. Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't watch shit like that. She's like, no, Dad, you got to see it. That's my 14-year-old daughter convincing me to watch.
You're like, I can't handle it. Kids in jeopardy. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm terrible. So terrible.
It's awful. But it is that thing, right? I absolutely identify with that you don't matter as much anymore. And I'm fine with it. Like, I love it. I love that, like, what I necessarily need in this moment is not the most important thing. I absolutely love that. And I wonder, I know why I waited as long as I did. And then ultimately we had a lot of infertility issues, and we ended up using surrogates for both of our children, which was such a beautiful experience. And I made a video the other day about how, it was this really vulnerable moment for me where I was talking about the experience on a podcast of learning that I couldn't carry my own children, and how heartbreaking that was for me for a little while, because I felt like such a failure as a woman. Like, the one thing I'm supposed to be able to do, I couldn't do. And there were a lot of people that didn't get it, because they were like, women are so much more important. I was like, no, I understand that. I'm not saying that the only thing in the world that women are supposed to contribute to society is this one thing. But on a biological level, it is what it's supposed to be, what females do in most every species. Like, that is the thing. And like, when you can't do it. And so that's what I meant. So I understand that biological thing of like, once you've done it, you're like, well, that's done.
Yeah.
Tick. What's next? What's next on this life journey that I'm supposed to accomplish?
3 months in the Alps.
3 months in the Alps. Exactly. Exactly. To go back to Mission Impossible, this last movie, I read an article that this last movie was like the most expensive Mission Impossible ever made.
Right.
And the most expensive movie that Tom has ever done.
I don't know if that's true. Now, there was a story that broke in the trades about the fact that we'd been delayed because the gimbal. There's a sequence in the film that requires this incredible. I mean, it's one of the most insane things I've ever seen that we built, especially for the movie. And the story went that it had broken and it had delayed us. Now, that's not true. It didn't break, and it hasn't delayed us. And I think the numbers in the story were grossly inflated. And that happened with the other film as well. Now and again, a story gets leaked and somebody with an agenda has kind of like dropped that story, whether it's like it's like an ex-Paramount employee or someone with a bit of a grudge or someone just wanting to stir things up. But I don't know. I think we've had to be circumspect with this one. And I think that's helped it in many ways because, necessity is the mother of invention. And because of the actors' strike and time, we've just had to be really clever with how it's made. And I think this film is going to be, it sounds like it's a party line, doesn't it? But I honestly think it's going to be better than Dead Reckoning Part 1 because, for me personally, my experience of it has been better. I felt more present in the movie and I felt like Benji's had a real a real arc, and it's been very gratifying to make it. But in terms of cost, I think those stories, they just float into the trades every now and again because it's good gossip. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. It happens so much in our industry where, these numbers get inflated and for whatever reason, and that just becomes, the truth for people that aren't in the know or that weren't involved in the production.
It's definitely expensive for sure. That's the thing these days, like everything, cinema's kind of priced itself out of its own market in a weird way.
It has.
But I'm hoping that I remember back in like 2007, I was in LA and it was just after Hot Fuzz and I was having sort of meetings like you do, you go around to everywhere and everybody was talking about the kind of $20 million movie it's the next thing. There's going to be this wave of very creator led movies, all about 20, 25 million. And Little Miss Sunshine had just been a huge hit. And there was all this talk about that's the way things were going to go. And then the year afterwards, Iron Man came out and everything changed. It went back to the kind of spectacle led, the age of, the golden age of Marvel started. And, but now that's sort of seemingly, coming to an end. Everyone's now talking again about the smaller, more sort of, creator-led movies. And I really hope that's the way it goes.
I hope so too. I've read over the last couple years, sort of looking for the right projects. I've read so much crap. And the stuff that seems to be really interesting are these beautiful character-driven projects that are seemingly simplistic to shoot because they're very contained, because the at the crux of the story, it is really just an emotional journey. And those are the ones that I'm drawn to. And they're like, the budgets are like $5 million.
Yeah. And usually single voices as well, like the moment things start getting made by committee is when they just become kind of, just mediocre. Because that's what that kind of creative process can only create is a kind of mediocrity. But when you have people with, single people with single visions that aren't kind of like, hoping to make something that's ridiculously huge, then you start getting really interesting, really good movies. And, obviously the thing that happens though is that somebody makes a movie like that and then they get given $70 million to make,
for their next movie.
And then they disappear because they get put in director jail because they can't handle working with a studio that's breathing down their neck, making all these demands, squashing their creative sort of impulses. It seems like a cycle,
What you've been involved in, speaking of like all of these big franchises, like, my goal in life has been to fulfill the geek trifecta.
You're doing pretty well.
I really, but like, on paper though, Simon, it's like Battlestar counts, Star Wars counts, right? Yeah. Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like you need that TV. I need that Star Trek TV thing.
Yeah. Well, there's quite a few Star Trek kind of like shows now, right? I mean, they seem to be expanding. It always was a TV show. I'm so happy that we got to do the movies, and I hope we do one more if possible. But Star Trek's sort of spiritual home is television.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be cool. I mean, because you were Starbuck. I mean, that's epic, And now you're a flicking Mandalorian as well. So that's you've got two big ticks there in the kind of nerd culture universe.
It's true. I'm looking for a hat trick, though. I really am. It's just like, I feel like I'm going to complete the hat trick and be like, I'm good. I'm done. And then I'll just go live on a farm and people will be like, what happened to her?
For me, it was Doctor Who is the British sci-fi kind of equivalent of Battlestar, really. And so being in that and Star Wars and Star Trek, that has, the best thing is having been the temporarily and very briefly the owner of the Millennium Falcon in The Force Awakens, and also being the chief engineer on the Starship Enterprise.
Yes.
I've got the two of the most famous spaceships covered, which is, that's something I will boast about at conventions.
I hope that you guys do another Star Trek. I loved those films. Each one of the actors in those movies, in my opinion, you guys really took the characters that are so beloved and you made them, the fear would be that they're jarringly different.
Uh-huh.
Every single person made the character an homage to what had come before, but made them their own. Every one of you across the board. And they're really brilliant.
It was, that was such fun. And I loved doing those movies. And, particularly the last one, because I got to co-write that.
Write it.
That was really, that was hard, but I look back on it now as being incredibly gratifying and really fun. It was fun to be like a cast member and a writer, because I got to be this kind of interface between the actors and the script, and we'd always talk through stuff before. There were varying levels of who wanted to talk about shit, right? So there was like, on one end you had Anton, God love him, and John Cho, who was just like, we're like, yeah, whatever, fine, okay. So Sulu's bisexual, great, let's do it, let's go for it. And then at the other end you had like Carl, Zach, and Chris. Zoe's very. She's so laid back, Zoe. She makes me laugh so much. I love her to pieces.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
She was down at the end with Anton and John, and then the guys like with Chris and Carl and Zach. You know, there would be a lot of talk, and it was fun. It was good because they weren't ever difficult about it. It was just they wanted to. They realized they had an opportunity to kind of like interface with the writer. You know. But yeah, I'd love to do more. Obviously, it's been forever tainted because we lost Anton, and that was a really hard thing for everyone involved, and for the real world, let alone anything else. Yeah. But if we do come back, if there is an opportunity to come back, then I'd love to, because that's like we were saying earlier on. It's a group of guys that I dearly, dearly love and don't get to see very often. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It would be good to get back together with them.
I remember walking onto that set for the first time, and I had never done anything with like a substantial budget. And I remember walking onto that set and seeing you all with fucking lazy boys in your
I
like
bought
cast
those.
tent. And I was like, lazy boys? I fucking carry my own Apple box. Like, what is happening?
There's a whole story behind that. There's a whole story behind that. And that goes back to 2008. I was making a little film in the UK with called How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, and with Jeff Bridges, the dude himself.
Yes.
And he introduced me to the zero gravity garden chair as an alternative to the director's chairs that you normally sit on. And ever since 2008, I've always had one of those with me on set. I either, if I'm in a different country, I'll buy one from like Home Depot. They're like $40. They don't cost anything, but they recline and they're super comfortable. And I have this chair, and I always call it Jeff. Everyone knows what Jeff is. Jeff is Simon's chair. But when we got to Beyond, as a little kind of kickoff gift for everyone, and to keep them all sweet, because I'd changed sides a little bit and I was, now in the production, I bought them all the garden chairs to sit on. So that wasn't even Paramount. That was me.
I literally, after that, I went back to Longmire, my like TV show that was like almost canceled. I mean, we were canceled once, we got saved. And I remember thinking to myself, I will never sit in a director's chair again. And I started going to like the Sports Authority wherever I shoot now. And I get the same sort of like zero gravity chair because I'm like, this is great. And I always donate it after I'm done.
Happy. I'm so pleased.
I did.
They're great wrap gifts as well because they're not that expensive, but the amount of naps that I've had on set in those, and they keep you on set because they're quite comfy, and so the temptation to go back to your trailer is less. Yeah. And I've always abided by the dude.
Oh my God. I remember leaving that and calling my manager and being like, we are doing something wrong. Because I no longer want to drive myself to work. I want 5-star lunches. I don't know what is happening, but we need to get me in some like big budget shit. Cause like, I want to know what that feels like. No more of this, like, here are your 2 coach tickets, Katee.
That's amazing. You know what though? It blows my mind that, because I always felt like not the one great thing about Battlestar Galactica, because it was, it's a landmark piece of television. There are a million great things about it, but it always looked very, very high budget. The production values in it. I mean, JJ basically, he was very inspired by that whole kind of news footage type shots of the spaceships and stuff. It was. I remember Maureen was pregnant. I was living in LA. We were shooting Paul in New Mexico, and that's what we used to do. We used to lie on the sofa at our apartment in Santa Monica, and we would watch episode after episode after episode of Battlestar Galactica. It was one of those. It was like popcorn. You could not stop it. You could not 4 in the morning. There was that great sketch on Portlandia. Remember that? Did you ever see that?
I did. It was wonderful because it's the truth.
Yeah,
it's the truth. You know, there's this rumor going around with the Battlestar people that JJ refuses to hire anyone from Battlestar ever. Because it's like this thing for him. Like, he won't hire us. Like, everyone is like, we're cursed with the JJ thing. And I almost brought it up to him one time over dinner. And I was like, probably not the right moment to be like, yo, JJ.
He's probably worried that people will go, hey, wait a minute. I remember seeing that camera move before.
You never know. You never know. I absolutely hope that there is another Star Trek, though, for you guys, because that would be wonderful. It would be really wonderful. And I think that the fans would really enjoy it. So,
yeah, it'll be great. I mean, you know, we're constantly asked about it, and we're constantly hearing things about there being stuff in production. You know, these days, who knows? It's such an uncertain time for. I mean, I hate to call it content, or rather for art. Let's call it art.
Art is, I get that. Yeah.
You know, who knows what's gonna happen? If it comes up, wonderful. If it doesn't, I've still got those friends for life. You know, and we still talk to each other, and we don't have a WhatsApp group. That's what we need. We need a Star Trek WhatsApp group.
I was going to ask if they were one of the group chats that you had.
We had like a text. Oh my God! I'll tell you a funny story. You must know this story. What was it called? Dub Smash was a huge thing.
Oh my God, you guys had so many dub smashes.
We were like dub smashing left, right, and center in costume, sharing it on a group thing. The only person that wasn't getting involved with it was Carl. And it was like, what's wrong with him? And, you know, he's a fun, playful guy. Why doesn't he want to play with us? So we kept, anyway, 85 dub smashes in. And I finally text Carl's number and go, why aren't you doing anything, man? And I get the message back, this isn't Carl. and we start
that's
panicking.
right. He panicked. Yes, I remember. It's coming back to me.
I had a number for Carl that I'd had on Darkness, which is an LA number, because of course he's got he had his Kiwi number.
Yes.
But my number for him, but he'd given that production phone back, and it was now belonged to a landscape gardener from LA called Steve Mulqueen, who now was in possession of 85 dub smashes with the Star Trek cast in full costume. And we were fucking panicking. First of all, we thought, Carl's messing with us.
Of course he is. That's very him to like fuck with you too.
And he owes me a messing with, because I, you know, famously pranked him on Into Darkness with this whole neutron cream thing.
God, I remember the neutron cream.
And he swore revenge on me. And I know he'll do it, because it took him 10 years to get Viggo Mortensen back. Yeah. And so we were thinking, he's just fooling us. It's not. But then it turned out it really had gone to this guy. And to this day, on my phone, Carl's number has a picture of Steve Mulqueen.
I love it. But didn't production like get involved and like call the guy and be like, wasn't there a whole thing? Like, they actually made him.
We sent him, he was lovely.
Yeah.
And had no intention of doing anything nefarious with the stuff. We sent him a basket of muffins, and he thought it was hilarious. But what freaked us out was that he didn't at any point say, hey guys, I'm not the person you think I am. He just let
85 of these things.
Oh God. And they were kind of, you know, they would have got us cancelled. They were deeply inappropriate, and not least that we were, you know, broke our NDAs.
I mean, yeah, of course. But like, I remember though when Carl when he actually started making them again, and then he got obsessed with like his lighting had to be perfect, and like it was like because he had to win.
Yeah, him and Chris Pine were just so kind of into it. They had production value on theirs.
They did. Like, it was like a whole thing. Hours and hours of trying to make these dub smashes.
I've still got a lot of them. Maybe they'll see the live day.
So when does the next Mission Impossible come out?
May the 25th, 2025. So we're a year out now, just under. And I've kind of wrapped. I've got one more day to go back. And, you know, there might be some reshoots later in the year, but it's pretty much coming to an end now. And then obviously there'll be a year of post and getting it all looking and sounding great. And then, you know, that'll be it, I guess.
Do you think, is this the last one?
I don't know. I mean, It's not like there's Tilly. Let me see if
Oh,
I.
yeah.
Hey, babe, I'm just on this podcast at the moment. Do you want to announce to the world what happened?
Oh yeah. Wait, really?
Yeah, tell us what happened with your audition for Les Mis.
Well, I auditioned for Master of the House.
Yeah.
And I got the role.
Yes. Tilly, Katee Sackhoff was celebrating as well.
Oh, I love it, Tilly. I don't know you, but I love it. I'm so happy for you.
That's awesome. So listen, I'll call you as soon as I finish here. I'll call you, okay?
All right, thanks. Love you, Dad.
Love you, Dad. Bye. Love you, Dad. Love you, babe. Bye. Oh, that's great. Oh my God, she's so happy.
Oh, I love that. That is a friend. That is like the cherry on the top to end on. Like that is.
She'll be happy as well because I showed Tilly the first 3 Star Wars movies when she was very young, and she was kind of okay. It wasn't. She was amazed at Yoda because he's a puppet. She said, "Oh, he's real," and because she'd only seen like a CG on a commercial, I think. And I remember telling JJ that, and he sort of took that to heart when he went into The Force Awakens, and I think was certainly something he told this physical effects crew when they started work on The Force Awakens. Anyway, so she became, when we watched it again like a couple of years ago, she became a huge fan of the original trilogy, and obviously because Mandalorian is very much tied to that world, she's a big fan of that show as well. So she'll be very happy that bo-katan herself was rooting for her.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I can't wait. My daughter, she has a poop book that she has on the toilet. That's all the characters in Star Wars. And when she gets to bad people, she goes bad. And the good people. And now she can literally tell you about everyone. She knows every character. She knows more about Star Wars than I will ever know. And she's like 2.5. And she got to, on the set, Jon Favreau was so wonderful. He cleared her when she was 4 months old to get in the pram with baby Yoda and take photos. And the props guys were wonderful. They came in the props and the photographers. They set it up like an actual photo shoot. And we have pictures of her in the pram with Grogu when she was 4 months old. Terrified.
I remember
terrified.
I remember taking Tilly onto the set of The Force Awakens, and she must have been about 4 or 5, I guess. And the guys had BB-8, who was obviously a new droid at that point, hadn't been seen, but the guys who operated him all went round the corner, and she was sat like opposite talking to him, and they were controlling him, making him move and stuff. It was such a beautiful moment. It's so nice when you get to take your kids onto the set of Star Wars, isn't it?
It really is. And just like she's such an awe of it. And she absolutely knows. I don't know what she thinks. I don't know if she thinks that like I go to work and I'm like a pilot or something, or if she understands, because she understands the difference. We've explained animation and live action to her. So she understands so it's very easy when there's things like Mulan. So like there's animated and then there's live action. And so Disney movies have been really great to sort of really help explain that. But she understands, and she calls bo-katan Mommy Bo-katan.
Oh, that's delightful.
So when she sees the doll, she goes, Mommy Bo-katan. It's a mommy doll.
Oh my
it's
God.
the mommy doll. And so it's really wonderful.
So
I hope she doesn't become an actress. Maybe I don't know.
You know what? Because Tilly's kind of, I feel like she's leaning that way. At the very least, she'll have somebody by her side who can help her navigate that world. Do you know what I mean? Which is maybe something we didn't have. I don't know if you had someone like that, but just someone to kind of like, to be there and to sort of support them in it, because it's tough, but it's also, as you know, best job in the world.
It is. And someone to be their biggest champion when things go right and when they go wrong. And that's the best place, is just providing your child a safe place to land when any one of those things happens.
Absolutely.
So on that note, I'm going to let you go call her, because I'm sure she's like dying to tell you more stuff. But
it's
this
so
has been
nice
wonderful.
to see you.
It's nice to see you as well.
It's really, really lovely. I do see you on Instagram and stuff, so I know you're around. And but Instagram isn't sort of real life, is it? It can sometimes make you feel like you're in touch with people when you're not. But
I know.
It's lovely to actually chat.
I have those moments with friends where I'm like, oh yeah, I was there, and I'm like, no, I saw that in your stories. Oh God. So, yeah, this has been wonderful. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Tell Tilly congratulations, please.
I will.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hindsight of Simon Pegg. I am Katee Sackhoff, obviously. And these are the three people that I've wrangled into being here: Jeff, Casper, and Robin.
Howdy.
Hello.
Yeah, they're all getting more and more comfortable, though, you guys. This is all part of my plan.
I haven't really noticed it that much, but I bet people are like, the enthusiasm level of Katee Sackhoff versus these three losers is very different. Hello.
That's why we're here. Make you look good.
Hi.
You guys.
It's about as much as I can muster.
Oh, that's all you got. I'm just happy.
That was like an 11 for Jeff, by the way.
It was. Jeff, you are incredibly even-keeled.
I've heard that before.
Have you?
Yeah, you're soothing.
Are you one of those people
Thank you.
that people question whether you like them or not?
All the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
People have always come up to me and say, once they get to know me, they'll say to me later, like, I thought you hated me.
Yeah, you're a Glenn Howerton.
Yeah.
I guess so.
You are. Yeah. It's a talent. Do you like me, Jeff?
Do I like you?
Yeah.
I'm figuring it out.
Okay.
It's too soon.
I'm an acquired taste. I do understand that. that. I'm not for everyone.
I like you.
I'm not everyone's cup of tea.
I agreed to be on your podcast. I like you.
Go.
And you haven't blocked your face out yet, just to be like a voice in the background.
This is, it's a dream come true.
Have we got any emails specifically like, why are these guys in the Hindsight?
I haven't seen any reference to us. It's a little insulting.
People love
they
you.
reference you all the time, Robin. They love you.
You guys keep saying that. You guys keep saying they reference me all the time. I have not seen a single reference. I read the same emails you do. I've never seen.
I get called out in this one. It's in today's Mailsack.
Do you?
Yes.
All right.
I love it.
I get dragged.
You get, oh no, Casper.
I got dragged last time.
Did you?
We did,
yeah.
With the PH.
Oh, you guys.
How did the PHs and the Goths feel about the double Fs out there?
Well, I'm technically a double F.
Oh,
I changed mine.
You changed it. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So
it's true. It's true.
So, and I don't really have anything against the G-offs. It's just sort of a fun game to play.
It is, like Canada. You know what I mean?
I do feel, G-offs to me are what Canada is to you.
It's true. It's very true. You guys, Simon Pegg. Speaking
of a dream come true.
I was actually shocked that Simon was so willing to come on the podcast.
Yeah.
Can we talk
nice
about
guy.
your relationship with Simon and what it actually was? Because I assumed you guys had stayed friends, but you met through Carl. But just met on set, or you actually hung out outside of being on set when you were there? Or
I think we probably hung out a little bit, but Simon was, as far as I can recollect, this was, a number of years ago, but there was a difference in personal life at the time. Simon was married and had a child and was sober. The other guys did not, did
not have children and were not sober.
Well, I guess Carl did in the beginning of shooting the Star Trek movies, but when I came into the picture, they were all out in the town, partying it up. And so I don't remember Simon ever being out at those types of things for long. But I do remember, spending certain amounts of time with him over the 4 years or whatever that Carl and I dated. And every single time it was always a lovely interaction, but no, I didn't have his phone number. We didn't talk or anything. It's always so strange when you meet someone through a significant other and then things end for whatever reason, you never quite know where you really stand with the friend group. And so there are certain people where you just sort of have to, like, out of respect for the friendship that they had with your ex, you just sort of remove yourself from that picture. And so there are just certain people that I just sort of didn't, engage with ever again. And Simon was one of them until social media. And then we sort of both started, like, liking and responding and, like, talking, like, just, like, reaching out to each other very quickly, nothing too big or anything. But it gave me sort of the in to be like, hey, would you want to come on the podcast? And he was very quick to say absolutely. So it just made me feel good. I was like, oh.
Nice.
Yeah. Did you guys talk about it in the episode? Was he a Battlestar fan or anything?
He was.
Okay, yeah. I figured he must be because he's a sci-fi guy.
Yeah. So many people are Battlestar Galactica fans.
Yeah.
But it still surprises
Popular
me.
show.
Yeah, but it was, like, so long ago.
And for you, it wasn't popular when you were on it.
No, it wasn't. And there are times where I sort of feel like, one of those, like, high school or college, like, football players that, like, like, never played again. And they're, like, 45 years old. And people are like, do you remember that touchdown you made in that fucking game against, like, Auburn? Like, yeah, man, best day of my life. That's sort of like,
except you're more like a college player that then went on to play in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
But the best play I ever made was in a college game against Georgia Tech.
Well,
yeah, so it's I mean, I love it. I love that people loved the show. I love it even more so probably because I'm still working. And so I can look back on it fondly and not in sort of a like, the glory days type of thing.
But it is a rare thing, I think, for people to have other actors be such a fan of your work, like a genuine fan, not in the, like, fake way where people say they love your work, but they've never seen your work.
Well, and we also talked about the fact that J.J. Abrams was a huge fan of Battlestar Galactica.
Is there any unwritten rules about Star Wars and Star Trek?
I don't think so, no, because Simon has also been in both. There's a lot of people that have been in both.
Right.
And so my goal, and we talk about this because Simon actually has talked about previous in an interview that, he sort of felt like he had the geek trifecta with the Doctor Who and the Star Trek and the Star Wars. Yeah. And that's always been my goal too, out of, like, a complete respect for the genre. I love science fiction and I consider myself a total geek because of the stuff that I love. And I really wanted that, like, hat trick of, like, Battlestar, Star Wars, Star Trek. You know what I mean?
What would you want to do in Star Trek?
I mean, I would love to be the commander of the ship, but, I don't know if that would go over well anymore. Isn't there, like, a pushback? I mean, there's always a pushback from, threatened male egos of women being in power positions in science fiction, right? They're like, fuck, I'm so tired of that.
Did you watch any of the Picard series?
We did. We watched the first 3 or 4 episodes.
I think we did. A little bit. There's so much on TV.
Skip the first 2 seasons and just watch the 3rd season.
Why?
It's amazing. They got a new showrunner and it's just, they really got their shit together. The first 2 seasons, I mean, I don't want to piss off any fans, but the first 2 seasons are not fantastic.
Yeah. We had a hard time getting into it.
We did.
Yeah.
And I am
the 3rd season, though, incredible.
Incredible.
But they set up that one at the end for a female captain, so.
Did they? Oh, God, I'm here and I'm available. Pick me up quick before I sell out and do something else. I grew up watching Next Generation. I mean, I grew up thinking, and I grew up watching the original Star Trek thinking that Captain Kirk was, like, still that age. And I could, like, maybe marry this man that was, like, 10 years older than me, 15 years old. I was, like, obsessed with William Shatner. I thought he was gorgeous. And then to go into Next Gen and, like, also Riker, I was, like, immediately, like, always had this soft spot for, like, sci-fi captains in uniform. I was like, whew. And so I just loved Star Trek. I loved it. And I told Simon as much. I love what the new actors did with the films.
Yeah.
Each one of them stood out. Each one of them was recognizable as the character they were supposed to be portraying that we fell in love with as kids. But they each one of them made it their own as well. And Chris Pine is fantastic as Kirk. I mean, just fuck, he's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great episode. I'm really happy that he came on, and he's so funny. And I loved the part where Tilly booked the role.
Yeah, that was so
very
sweet.
cute.
Wasn't that sweet? It was so
very
cute.
yeah.
I was happy for her. I was like crossing my fingers, terrified that we were going to have to cut out that she didn't get it.
Was that literally his first time hearing it too?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
she
incredible.
had called him and he was like, I'm waiting to hear this.
Yeah.
So
That's
I was
great.
like,
That's so sweet.
Yeah, I remember booking my first role and getting picked for a play, and it was just
What was your first?
the first role that I like actually had dialogue in was I played Mrs. McAfee in Bye Bye Birdie, which is the mom. It was a high school production.
Yeah.
But it,
The mom, and I was 15.
I was 15. Yeah. Anyway, let's read some comments, shall we? So Grover is my spirit animal says, one day I would love to see a movie or TV series where Tate Fletcher actually lives. You and me both. He's just such a good dude, man. I really like him so much. And he makes every production that he's in that much more fun to watch and that much more fun to be on because he's just such a wonderful human being. Recon Soldier 135 says, it blew my mind when I realized one of the guys from Ultimate Fighter Season 3 was Paz Vizsla. Exactly. Tate started as a fighter and then, went into stunts and then ultimately has started, getting hired as an actor because he has such a cool look. I love it. I love it. And he could beat the shit out of you.
Did the four of us take him?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, man.
Not a chance.
No, he's a big dude too. CMick1520 says hi Carol. There are many podcasts that ask for fan questions. I like that it's just you and your guest having a natural conversation that we get to listen to. Fan questions would make it feel different to me. You do you. We love you for it. Do you think that fan questions is like everyone does fan questions?
This is Carol. Kate knows Carol because
I know Carol
is
personally.
A super awesome lady.
Yeah, Carol's wonderful. She's friends with my mom. and me. She's wonderful.
Hi,
And she sends me cookies.
She does. She makes cookies and sends them to Robin. She's wonderful.
She's like, I don't want to hear any questions from fans. I just want to hear you, Katie.
I just want to hear you, Katie. Oh, Carol. On that sweet note from Carol, let's get into the mail sack.
Mailsack, we're going to the mailsack. Mailsack, why are we calling it mailsack?
Still not old. I'm not
It's
getting
not.
sick of it yet.
I
It's
still like
not.
it.
I see you bobbing your head, Jeff. You're like, yeah.
Casper was singing it between recordings.
I mean, I like
Well,
it.
humming
it. True. We don't know the full lyrics yet.
It's not that hard. It's sort of like an Imagine Dragons song.
Radioactive.
I love Imagine Dragons. Like I legit.
Real.
We were
Love.
literally in the car
Really?
yesterday with our daughter and my mom and dad explaining to them why people hate Imagine Dragons, but also talking about how we love Imagine Dragons. And the thing is, if you explain it to someone, it's really easy because you just say, just listen to the lyrics for the next 30 seconds. And for 30 seconds, it is the same thing repeated over and over again,
It is.
but in such a catchy way.
It's so catchy. And you guys, he's hot. He's so hot. And he dances
he?
around on stage like with his shirt off.
Google him.
Yep. Casper, Google him
Wow.
up.
Yeah.
Throw a picture up on
I don't think I know anything about Imagine Dragons.
No?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe I know their songs as they've just like been playing in the grocery store
I'm
or something.
sure-
But
not the grocery store. No.
So I assume the ripped guy is the person you're talking about.
I think
Yeah.
that where would you hear an Imagine Dragons song?
I think you'd
maybe
hear it at the mall.
hair salon or the mall.
Yeah. You would hear it in the background.
And then Robin said, Imagine Dragons are the Nickelback of the United States.
But then I took it back because I actually think Nickelback has better lyrics than Imagine Dragons does. Nickelback got a bad rap. You guys, as a Canadian, let's talk about Nickelback for a second here. They got a bad rap for no reason. I don't know what happened, but they're a good band.
You can't argue with they're a good band.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. It's a great line.
That's a great line. I see what you mean. It's not like sail.
Yeah. At least there's
Wait,
more
is
than
that
one
Imagine
word.
Dragons?
Yeah.
Imagine Dragons.
Oh,
yeah.
then yeah, I know that song.
Yeah.
Sail.
See?
Okay.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
danced
It's-
to it at some point.
I hope that your spot on impression
You got it.
it.
You're welcome. What's the other one that was on in the car the other night, though?
Oh,
It's only got 2 words, the whole song.
well, radioactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how does that go?
It's the same thing. Radioactive.
No, that
It's just
wasn't the one
repeated.
that was in the car.
No,
though.
that wasn't in the car.
But yeah.
I totally missed how this even came up.
I don't know.
Oh, is radioactive the one that's also like
Welcome to the new age.
Yes.
To the
Yeah,
new
yeah.
age.
Yeah.
So
So
it's the
it's
same
got
song?
more than 2 words in it. You guys,
Oh.
and the guy is like really cool. He does like a lot of work for Children's Hospital Los Angeles, so I like the dude.
Oh, you know what? It's really easy with Imagine Dragons because the name of the song is also repeated in the song 1 billion times. So Radioactive is one song, and Thunder was the one we're listening to.
Lightning, hear the thunder.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
So
Repeated
is Sail
over.
just called Sail? Is that the name of the song?
Probably.
Let me see.
Probably. I love that
This is what people come to this podcast for.
it's true.
This has officially become an Imagine
hey, you know
Dragons
what, you guys?
fan
We
podcast.
have
Sail is
it's
not.
Imagine Dragons. AWOL Nation.
Oh shit.
I was going to say, is it
Alright, then.
Nickelback?
No, AWOL Nation.
I still don't know any Imagine Dragons.
You guys, remember that how you get into the Mailsack is the sackoffshow@gmail.com. Send us all of your emails, your comments, all that good stuff. We read them, and I truly, truly appreciate it. Make sure you go and you rate the show wherever you get your podcasts too. It helps the show, so I appreciate that. In the Mailsack, so Jake, the sudden leap from Top Gun aviator sunglasses to Avatar popcorn buckets to buttholes was just, I'm still laughing. You're welcome,
This is from
Jeff. Or Jake.
Jake. No, but
Jake.
you're welcome, Jeff.
You're welcome, Jeff, because I believe it was you and I talking about buttholes.
Popcorn buckets that were just Avatar buttholes, I think was the thing.
Yeah,
This podcast is really rectally focused a lot of the time.
it really is.
Taking a dive since you got 3 male co-hosts. Yeah.
It's true. But this is my comfort zone,
You
guys.
can't blame us for Katie's disgusting mind. She leads us in these directions for sure.
I
You
would.
guys you have not been in a locker room with women. Women say disgusting things.
Yeah.
It's true. What were you going to say, Jeff?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. Let's just move on.
Casey says, I would love to see Katee in an episode of the Sesame Street or the Muppet Show, if that's even a thing anymore. She could even be a Fraggle. Oh my gosh, I love that. I would imagine a red Fraggle. Thank you, Casey. That's super cute. All right, you guys, we have a prompt for what I want you guys to send us into the mail sack at thesackoffshow@gmail.com. We want to know what you think the sleeper movies are. Like, what is a movie that you think is good that nobody else thinks is good? Is that basically what we were going for, Jeff?
Yeah.
Something that
Some people
you
are sleeping on.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to have to think about this because this is a hard one. There's, I don't know of a lot of movies that I love that like everyone hated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really don't know.
We'll find
I'm
out.
a big J-Lo fan. I could watch her in a romantic comedy.
The Wedding Planner, you're all about it, right?
Oh my God. She and McConaughey together were like butter. They were
Great
butter.
movie.
All right.
Thank
Good shout.
you.
See, that is,
Yeah.
I don't think
Thank
that's going to
you.
be controversial. I think a lot of people love that movie. So send us the ones you think are controversial.
Yeah.
Give us the good stuff.
Absolutely. Send them in, guys. I can't wait to hear what you think is good and we know is a pile of shit.
Great.
I'm kidding. Send it in. That was great. I can't wait to see you guys next Tuesday, where we have some new material for the Hindsight. Robin and I are going camping this weekend.
Yep. And where are we going camping?
Canada, if they let
Canada.
me in the country. So we'll let you know how that goes next week. But until then, we'll see you next Tuesday. And that's what's up.